Have you ever paused to wonder how some people seem to suddenly speak English fluently, effortlessly, opening the door to a whole new world filled with exciting opportunities, meaningful connections, and unforgettable experiences? Today, I'm truly excited to share with you a very personal journey, my journey of how I transformed from a hesitant, uncertain English learner into a confident, fluent speaker. Welcome to PowerHab English, your trusted source for inspiring stories, practical advice, and personal growth tools that empower you to unlock your full potential. If you've ever faced the challenges of learning a new language, or are currently navigating the sometimes overwhelming path to mastering English, this story is crafted just for you. Together, we will explore the struggles I faced, the strategies I uncovered, and the many successes I celebrated. Along the way, I'll provide you with real-life examples that illustrate exactly how you can apply these lessons in your own English learning journey to accelerate your progress and boost your confidence. Before we dive into the core of my story, let's take a moment to reflect on why learning English or any foreign language is more important now than ever before in our interconnected world. Whether your dreams involve advancing your career, traveling to fascinating new places, or simply connecting with people from diverse cultures and backgrounds, the ability to communicate effectively in English is like holding a master key that can unlock countless doors you might never have imagined. English is not just another language, it's a gateway to opportunity growth and meaningful relationships. So let's embark on this journey together and explore how I transformed my English skills and ultimately became fluent. When I first began learning English, I had absolutely no idea how profoundly it would impact every aspect of my life. I vividly remember sitting in my very first English class feeling a mixture of excitement and overwhelming confusion. The language itself felt enormous and complex, with its vast vocabulary, tricky grammar rules, and pronunciation challenges that often left me frustrated and confused. English seemed like an intricate puzzle with endless pieces, and at times I doubted whether I could ever put it together. Yet despite these initial struggles, one simple but incredibly powerful belief kept me moving forward. If other people could master English, then so could I. That belief, this unwavering hope and determination, is something I want to pass on to you as we walk through my story together. As I continued along my English learning journey, one thing became crystal clear. English is a language full of surprises and exceptions. It borrows words from numerous languages, which can make it feel inconsistent and unpredictable at times. This complexity can be especially confusing during the early stages of learning. Take pronunciation, for example. English is famously or sometimes notoriously known for words that look exactly the same but are pronounced completely differently depending on the context. Consider the word read. It's spelled identically in both present and past tense, but the pronunciation changes read when it's present tense and read when it's past tense. When I first learned this, it was baffling and caused me a lot of frustration. I often found myself mispronouncing words, which made me feel self-conscious and hesitant to speak out loud. But here's the first and most important lesson I learned on this journey: embrace your mistakes. Yes, I made plenty of them, and you will too. But every single mistake is a valuable learning opportunity that helps you grow and improve. I remember one particular conversation where I accidentally used the word live instead of leave. It was a tiny slip, but it taught me a profound lesson about the importance of context and how even small mistakes can completely change the meaning of what you're trying to express. That moment made me realize something crucial. Mistakes aren't failures. They are essential steps on the path to mastery. Instead of fearing them, we need to welcome them as part of the learning process. The role of immersion. Now let's explore one of the most transformative strategies that truly changed my English learning journey: immersion. I cannot overstate how essential immersion is when it comes to mastering any language, especially English. Immersion is what shifts your learning experience from simply studying rules and vocabulary to fully living and breathing the language every day. But what exactly does immersion involve? Many people mistakenly believe immersion means just attending English classes or completing homework assignments. While those activities are important components, immersion goes much deeper. It means surrounding yourself with English in every possible way, making the language a natural and constant part of your daily environment. For me, immersion wasn't limited to textbooks or classroom learning. Instead, I surrounded myself with English through movies, TV shows, music, podcasts, books, and articles. Whether I was commuting, relaxing at home, or even doing chores, English was always present. This constant exposure meant I was regularly encountering new words, phrases, and expressions, which helped me absorb the language naturally over time. But immersion is more than just passive listening or reading. It's about actively engaging with the language and making it part of your thought process. That's why I took the bold step of training myself to think in English. This may sound difficult or even impossible at first, but it's one of the most effective ways to internalize a new language. Thinking in English means your brain starts to process ideas, plan your day, and even hold conversations internally, using the language itself, not just translating from your native language. It's a critical step in moving from knowing English as something you study to English as something you live. When you think in English, speaking and writing become much more fluid because you're not constantly searching for words or translating phrases in your head. Here's a real-life example from my own journey. When I first began watching English language movies, I relied heavily on subtitles in my native language. This helped me understand the story, but it didn't push my English skills forward very much. Then I switched to watching with English subtitles. Suddenly, I could hear the words and see them at the same time, which helped me connect pronunciation with spelling and meaning. This step accelerated my vocabulary growth and comprehension. Eventually, I challenged myself to watch movies and shows without any subtitles at all. The first few times were tough. I missed many details and had to rewind scenes multiple times to catch dialogue I didn't understand at first. But with patience and consistent practice, my listening ability improved dramatically. I found that I was naturally picking up new vocabulary and expressions without even realizing I was learning. Immersion also exposed me to the real, everyday English people actually use the informal phrases, idioms, and slang you won't always find in textbooks. It helped me understand the natural rhythm, intonation, and flow of English conversations, which is essential for sounding fluent and confident. When you fully immerse yourself in English, it becomes part of your life rather than just a subject you study. This kind of learning is far more enjoyable, effective, and sustainable because it keeps you engaged and motivated. The more English you absorb through immersion, the easier it becomes to think, speak, and understand without hesitation. The power of consistency. Another absolutely critical factor in my journey toward English fluency was something deceptively simple, yet incredibly powerful: consistency. When it comes to learning a language, you cannot expect to achieve great results by studying here and there or practicing sporadically. Real progress comes from regular, steady efforts sustained over time. Without this daily commitment, even the best methods and materials won't produce lasting improvements. Early on, I made a firm promise to myself to dedicate at least one focused hour every day, specifically to improving my English skills. At first, that felt like a big commitment, especially juggling work, studies, and daily responsibilities, but I quickly realized how much could be accomplished with just this small, consistent investment of time. The progress I saw encouraged me to keep going, and that hour became non-negotiable in my routine. For instance, I would begin my mornings with a 15-minute vocabulary review. Each day, I carefully selected about 10 new words to learn thoroughly. I would spend time understanding their meanings, practicing how to use them in sentences, and focusing on pronouncing them correctly. This wasn't about rushing through lists of words, but about really absorbing their usage and sound. Throughout the day, I made a conscious effort to actively use those new words in my thoughts notes or simple conversations, even if only mentally at first. This daily mental rehearsal helped cement those words in my memory. Later, at the end of the day, I'd dedicate another 15 minutes to revisiting those same words. I would quiz myself on their definitions and pronunciations, checking how much I retained and identifying which ones needed more practice. This deliberate and consistent practice was a game changer. It allowed me to build a strong and useful vocabulary base over time, one that was practical and ready for real-world use. Rather than feeling overwhelmed, I found myself progressing steadily and confidently. To give you an idea of how impactful this approach can be, consider some research-backed numbers. Studies show that learning just 20 new words per week can dramatically improve your fluency. When you break it down, that's fewer than 3 words a day, completely manageable, even for the busiest learners. Over the course of a year, you could add more than 1,000 new words to your vocabulary. Imagine the difference this could make to your confidence and ability to express yourself clearly. The real secret behind successful language learning lies in regularity and repetition. Whether you are focusing on vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, or speaking skills, consistent daily practice is far more effective than long, infrequent sessions. Small, focused efforts repeated day after day build strong neural connections in your brain, making it easier to remember and use what you've learned. Consistency also transforms learning from a stressful task into a natural, enjoyable habit. When English becomes part of your daily life, you stop viewing it as a chore and start seeing it as a key to new opportunities and connections. This mindset shift is essential because it sustains your motivation and helps you overcome the inevitable obstacles along the way. So, if you want to speed up your English learning journey, here's my strongest advice. Set yourself a daily learning goal that fits your lifestyle and stick to it, no matter what. It doesn't have to be a long session, even 20 or 30 focused minutes will do, but make sure it happens every single day. That is the foundation that supports all your language skills and fuels your confidence. One of the most common and toughest challenges that many language learners face on their journey is the fear of speaking. I want to be honest, this was a major obstacle for me as well. The fear of making mistakes, sounding awkward, or simply not being understood was often overwhelming. It sometimes felt like a wall I couldn't climb, and there were moments when I wanted to give up altogether. The anxiety would make me hesitate, freeze, or choose silence instead of speaking out loud. But deep inside, I knew that the only way to become truly fluent was to face this fear head-on and push through it. So I made a deliberate and courageous decision to step outside my comfort zone and start speaking English regularly, no matter how nervous I felt. One of the first steps I took was to find a language partner, someone I could talk with on a regular basis, in a relaxed, supportive environment. We agreed to meet once a week to have simple conversations in English. In the beginning, our conversations were very basic and straightforward. We talked about everyday things like introducing ourselves, describing our routines, or sharing our hobbies and interests. These short, simple chats helped me build a foundation of confidence and get comfortable with speaking without pressure. As time went on and I gained more experience, my confidence grew naturally. With that growth, our conversations gradually became richer and more complex. We started discussing current events, sharing opinions about movies or books, and even telling jokes or stories. This gradual progression was crucial because it allowed me to stretch my skills little by little without feeling overwhelmed. The value of this experience cannot be overstated. Having to think on my feet and respond spontaneously in real conversations prepared me for real-life English interactions. I learned that speaking English is not about perfection. It's about communicating and connecting with others. Even when I made grammatical mistakes or stumbled over words, the most important thing was to keep trying and express my thoughts. In addition to practicing with a partner, I adopted another very effective technique: recording myself speaking. Although it might feel strange or uncomfortable at first, recording your own voice is a powerful way to improve your English speaking skills. I would choose a topic, anything from talking about my day, explaining a favorite hobby, or describing a recent experience, and then speak continuously for 5 minutes without stopping. After recording, I'd listen carefully to my voice. This allowed me to hear things that I might not notice while speaking, such as pronunciation, mistakes, awkward phrasing, or grammar errors. I'd take detailed notes on areas where I could improve. At first, hearing my own voice was a bit intimidating, and sometimes I felt critical of myself. But over time, this practice became motivating and empowering. It gave me a clear, objective way to track my progress and set realistic goals for improvement. This process of recording and reviewing created a feedback loop that accelerated my learning. It helped me become more aware of my strengths and weaknesses, and it pushed me to practice targeted improvements. More importantly, it gave me concrete proof of my growth, boosting my confidence immensely as I realized how far I had come. The importance of setting goals. Now let's shift our focus to another vital pillar of successful language learning: setting clear, achievable goals. This practice was absolutely essential throughout my journey to mastering English. Having specific goals gave me a strong sense of direction, motivation, and purpose. Without them, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, lost, or stuck in a cycle of confusion. But when you know exactly what you want to achieve and break it down into manageable steps, learning becomes more focused and rewarding. When I first began, I started with very small, realistic goals that felt attainable and encouraging. For instance, one of my initial targets was to confidently order food in English at a restaurant. While this might seem like a simple task for a beginner, it was a significant challenge that required practice and courage. Another early goal was to engage in a short conversation with a stranger in English, something that pushed me out of my comfort zone and helped me gain practical speaking experience. As I began to meet these small goals, I naturally felt inspired to raise the bar and set more ambitious challenges for myself. This gradual progression was important because it allowed me to build confidence incrementally without feeling overwhelmed. Soon my goals expanded to things like giving a presentation in English at work or reading an entire novel without constantly needing a dictionary. These bigger challenges demanded more effort, but they also brought a profound sense of accomplishment and growth. For example, one of my major long-term goals was to read and fully comprehend a novel by an English author. I carefully selected a book that sparked my interest, not too easy, but not so difficult as to discourage me. Over several months, I patiently worked through it, frequently looking up unfamiliar words and phrases. There were moments of frustration, but finishing that book was one of the most rewarding experiences of my learning journey. It served as concrete proof of how far I had come and was a tremendous confidence booster. Using technology to your advantage. In this digital era, learners have access to a treasure trove of resources that can significantly enhance the language learning process, making it easier, more engaging, and more efficient. Throughout my journey, technology became one of my closest allies, tools and apps that supported me every step of the way. I heavily relied on language learning apps, especially those that utilize the technique of spaced repetition. This method is based on the science of memory and involves reviewing vocabulary at carefully spaced intervals to move words from short-term to long-term memory effectively. The app I used would remind me to revisit words just before I was likely to forget them, which helped me retain vocabulary far better than simple rote memorization. For me, this technique revolutionized how I learned new words, making vocabulary acquisition less daunting and more successful. Additionally, I subscribed to a variety of podcasts featuring native English speakers who covered a broad spectrum of topics, from everyday conversations and cultural insights to current events and storytelling. Listening to these podcasts sharpened my listening skills and exposed me to different accents, slang, and informal expressions that textbooks rarely cover. This exposure was invaluable, especially when I traveled to English-speaking countries and encountered regional dialects and speech patterns that I wasn't familiar with. Podcasts helped me become comfortable with the richness and variety of English as it is naturally spoken. Language is never just about memorizing vocabulary or mastering grammar rules. It is deeply woven into the fabric of culture. One of the most important and eye-opening lessons I discovered during my English learning journey was that truly understanding the cultural context behind words, phrases, and expressions can significantly elevate your fluency and make your English sound more natural, authentic, and engaging. This was something I only came to realize later on, but once I did, it transformed the way I interacted with the language and the people who spoke it. For instance, many English idioms and phrases have cultural roots that don't translate literally. Without knowing their background, these expressions can seem confusing, strange, or even meaningless. A classic example is the phrase raining cats and dogs. At face value, it sounds bizarre and might even make you picture animals falling from the sky. But in English-speaking cultures, this quirky idiom simply means it's raining very heavily. Understanding such phrases and the cultural stories behind them helps you grasp the playful, colorful nature of English and use it more confidently. To deepen my understanding of the cultural aspects of English, I immersed myself in various forms of media rich with cultural references. I started watching popular TV shows and movies that portrayed everyday life humor and social dynamics of English-speaking countries. These programs were packed with slang jokes and cultural nuances that no textbook could teach. Alongside watching, I read novels, short stories, newspapers, and articles that captured the lifestyle and values of English speakers. This continuous exposure didn't just improve my vocabulary or listening skills, it allowed me to feel the language's pulse and rhythm, helping me think and communicate like a native speaker. In addition to media, I made a conscious and deliberate effort to learn about the history, traditions, and customs of countries where English is the primary language. This cultural education was vital because language is inseparable from culture. Knowing why certain holidays are celebrated, what social norms exist, and how people interact in different contexts helped me avoid misunderstandings and speak more naturally. It also enabled me to engage in conversations on a deeper level, sharing experiences and building meaningful connections with native speakers. Language reflects not only words, but the values, humor, and ways of thinking of the people who use it. When you appreciate this, you move beyond basic fluency to truly understanding and embracing the language. This cultural insight helps you pick up on subtle cues, jokes, and implied meanings that are critical for effective communication, but often missed by learners who focus only on grammar and vocabulary. Moreover, understanding culture helps you navigate social situations with confidence, knowing when to use formal or informal language, how to interpret body language, and how to respond appropriately in conversations. It's this cultural competence that makes your English sound authentic and helps you connect with others on a more human level. Celebrating milestones. One of the most fulfilling and motivating parts of my journey to becoming fluent in English was taking time to celebrate the milestones along the way. Learning a new language is often a long, challenging road filled with moments of doubt and frustration. It's easy to become discouraged if you only focus on the distant goal of full fluency, or worry about how far you still have to go. That's why I learned early on that recognizing and celebrating every bit of progress, no matter how small, is absolutely crucial for maintaining motivation and a positive mindset. I vividly recall the very first time I had a dream in English. To some, this might sound like a minor or silly achievement, but for me, it was a groundbreaking moment. Dreaming in English meant that the language had truly started to become an integral part of my subconscious mind. It wasn't just something I studied during the day. It had begun to live naturally in my thoughts, even when I was asleep. That realization gave me an enormous boost of confidence and motivation to keep pushing forward. Another milestone I celebrated with great pride was the first time I could hold a conversation with a native English speaker without feeling overwhelmed by nerves or self-doubt. Prior to that moment, I often felt my heart pounding or my mind freezing when speaking English in real life, fearful of making mistakes or being misunderstood. But once I was able to relax, communicate my ideas clearly, and enjoy the interaction, it was a powerful sign that my hard work was paying off. That conversation was a turning point. It showed me that fluency was truly within reach. It's important to remember that these milestones may seem small or even insignificant to someone who isn't learning a language, but to us. Learners, they are monumental achievements. They serve as vital reminders that progress is happening even when it feels slow or invisible. These victories, no matter how tiny, help build momentum and keep your motivation alive on the long path ahead. So I encourage you to celebrate your own milestones, big or small, simple or complex. Maybe you learned your first 10 new words, understood a tricky sentence in a book, gave your first presentation in English, or had a meaningful conversation without hesitation. These moments are the stepping stones of your journey and deserve recognition. Celebrating them helps build a positive feedback loop that motivates you to continue learning and improving. The ongoing journey. Even though I have reached a level of English fluency where I feel comfortable and confident communicating in many everyday situations, I still wholeheartedly consider myself a learner. One of the most valuable and eye-opening truths I have discovered along this journey is that language learning is truly a lifelong process. No matter how fluent you become, there is always something new to discover, a new word, to learn a new accent to understand, or a subtle cultural nuance to appreciate. Every day offers a fresh opportunity to deepen your knowledge and strengthen your connection with the language. Sometimes this means expanding your vocabulary with the latest slang or idiomatic expressions. Other times it involves refining your listening skills to better catch different accents or speech speeds. And often it's about understanding the cultural context that shapes how language is used in different social settings. One of the most important lessons I've come to embrace is that fluency isn't about being perfect. It isn't about speaking flawlessly without any mistakes or memorizing every grammar rule. Instead, fluency is about being able to communicate effectively, clearly, and confidently. It's about sharing your thoughts, ideas, and feelings in a way that others can understand and connect with, even if your English isn't perfect. So if you are on your own path toward mastering English, please remember this. It's completely okay to make mistakes along the way. It's natural to feel frustrated, confused, or even stuck sometimes. Learning a new language is a complex and challenging endeavor, and progress can often feel slow or invisible. But none of that means you're not moving forward or making real progress. What truly matters above all else is that you keep going, keep practicing, keep speaking, keep listening, and keep exposing yourself to English every single day. Most importantly, keep believing in yourself and your ability to improve. Your dedication, persistence, and positive mindset will make all the difference, and the results will come often when you least expect them. Remember, every person you admire who speaks English fluently started as a beginner just like you. They faced their own fears, challenges, and mistakes before reaching where they are today. Your journey is unique and valuable, and every single step forward is an achievement worth celebrating. Stay patient, stay curious, and above all, stay committed. With time, effort, and an open heart, you'll continue to grow not just as an English speaker, but as a confident communicator ready to engage with the world. Conclusion and final thoughts. And with that, we've reached the end of today's story. I sincerely hope that sharing my personal journey has not only inspired you, but also offered some meaningful insights and practical guidance to support your own language learning adventure. Remember, you're not alone on this path, and every step you take brings you closer to your goal. Becoming fluent in English, or any new language, is not something that happens instantly or without effort. It requires patience, dedication, consistent practice, and a willingness to embrace mistakes and challenges as part of the learning process. But with the right mindset, effective strategies, and a commitment to keep going, even when it feels tough, fluency is absolutely within your reach. If you found this story helpful or motivating, I warmly invite you to subscribe to PowerHab English to stay connected and access more inspiring content, practical tips, and learning tools designed just for you. Please consider sharing this video with friends, family, or anyone else who could benefit from encouragement and guidance on their English learning journey. Also, I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, thoughts, or personal experiences about learning English, please leave a comment below. Your stories and insights not only enrich our community, but also inspire others to keep moving forward. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep believing in yourself, keep learning, keep growing, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video here at PowerHab English.